Cool. Hi, everyone. I can see again familiar faces, some newbies. Timothy, you should actually have been sent Google Calendar links. We do update those for new registrations. Just drop a message in the Discord. Astrid's going to drop in the Discord. Hopefully, you're all there. There's a dedicated channel. You can ask questions and generally participate in the community as well. We'll also drop in all the links. There's an Eventbrite for every future event as well. So we'll drop a link into those and the website just so you can see all of the things. As Astrid mentioned, we've got some big events coming up where you can apply the skills you've learned. If you want to join our boot camps, we've just announced the Q4 ones. If you want to learn Solidity in depth, ZK experts, some more bits to come, go there. But if you want to apply your specific knowledge, we do have a Chainlink track in our Open Data Hackathon. That is a tautology, but Open Data Hackathon, where there's bounties to win for best integration with Chainlink. So please do check that out. And otherwise, we've also got the Digital Identity Hackathon happening soon too. As mentioned, today is about oracles and data feeds. So we're going to use the first just a few minutes here to do a quick recap of what we learned before, and then move on from there, and then talk about the specifics. So I'm going to share my screen now. And what I'll do as well, I'll do two things. I'm going to share my screen. I'll also give you a chance to join along. Hopefully that's nice and visible. In general, it's I'm going to try and balance having a board, and also there is also Matisse Polkadot and near ones, yes, but we've got lots from the next workshop. Probably not homework, but we will be doing more technical stuff from the next workshop onwards. So first, I'm going to start with a retro. I will just share the link quickly as well. There you go. Cool. So first of all, we sort of talked about why we need oracles. Anyone in chat want to remind me? Why do I need oracles? Remember, we like to be nice and engaging with these ones. Why do we need oracles, guys? Because of data on chain, yes, almost, yeah. External data. What's the key word? We'll talk about in a moment. So it's to get real-world data into smart contracts without compromising decentralization. This is the most important thing. It's easy to get data in, but you need to do it in such a way that is as decentralized as the processes you otherwise have in building your smart contract. Otherwise, you're putting in a centralized source of failure. The data we sort of care about is usually price data. What other data, guys, could we care about? What other data might we care about? It tends to be price data with Chainlink data feeds, but what other things? So yeah, market data, yes. Credit scores, yeah, you could do that. That'd be very tricky to get. Weather data, that's very nice. Sports data, NFT floors, that's kind of in price data, yeah. So we could also do things like weather, events, facts, sports, news, etc. It could have a market on it if Trump is the next president, for instance. Cool, good so far. So that's the first thing. That's why we have it. So we obviously therefore need this sort of decentralized way to do so. So we're going to use the sort of principles of decentralized consensus plus APIs to make this decentralized data source. Or no, call that decentralized data service. Why the principles consensus? What do I mean by that? Why does consensus matter? What is consensus doing here? What does it give us? Flight motion is good, very good. What is random numbers? Very good as well, Jorge. What does consensus give us? Why is it really important? Why is it the secret sauce to making this work? Got some typing. Lots of typing. Loads of typing. Validity of reliable data. I like this. Common agreements. There's one word that Let's see if I can do this nice. Ah. I definitely not done this right. What's this word? One thing matters with this. I've really clunkily written out the word, and I bet I've done the wrong number of letters. What is this thing, guys? You can guess letters if you want. Real time? No. One word that matters here, what consensus actually is for. E, you can have an E. Also, there's an extra word and letter in there. Lol. Agreement, no. Rewarding. An A, you can have an A. Oh, that's not an A in there, sorry. Oh my god, I can't spell. There is an A in there. Reputation, Jorge's got it. It's reputation. To have a system that's resilient, we need a resilient and decentralized. We need a sense of who are good and bad actors. So we need basically a reputation system. Consensus is about agreement, but it's agreement based on figuring out who has a good reputation and who doesn't, and using that as our way of assessing who are good or bad actors in the system. So we need some way of doing consensus, doing reputation, in order to have some concepts of reputation. And then to add to this, we kind of maybe we can add it sort of here. With decentralization, with decentralization, what sort of factors do we care about? What are the sort of keywords we might care about with decentralization? So we've got privacy, very good. We'll talk about that today, Mason. That is the whole topic. How do we work out what is good reputations? Trustlessness, very good. We've got consensus in there, but I mean the things we care about to achieve decentralization. Transparency, very good. Incentives, kind of, I'm going to say sort of incentive-driven behavior. Other things, other words we care about. Yeah, to extent, not for decentralization. Permissionlessness, very good. Censorship resistance. I'll add a few of my own. Sort of kind of distribution / number of participants. Security. We care about all these things, and we then talked about the idea of there's like maybe something like a formula. What did we sort of conclude this formula might be? What is kind of, I don't remember from Tuesday. So it's a mathematical formula that I thought was yeah, P over N. I think that's kind of it. We're talking about power over number of nodes. That's and how obviously power can be defined very very loosely or very specifically. But I think it's P over N. How much control you're distributing over a user base. And obviously, therefore, it's a spectrum, and some things we consider better at decentralization, some things we think are worse. Could it be the case that if I satisfy a certain amount of decentralization, that counts? Is it a sort of a constantly evolving number? Can I have max decentralization? Is there a point at which decentralization starts to undermine the power itself or the ability for the system to execute? So all these things. Okay, that is, I think, most of the retro. Let's just look at last time. If you did miss last time, here's the link. Yeah, that is the kind of it. So, and also to define things, because there's a question in chat. All an oracle is oracle is a way to bridge the gap between smart contracts and real world data. Because smart contracts might need this data to function, such as in DeFi use cases. So that's what we mean by it. That's why this all sort of matters. All right, let's go into it. So the obvious innovation here then, oh, this is going to be painful. The obvious innovation here, if I close that up, no, it's not going to like me. I will just pull this up. So the obvious innovation of Chainlink is twofold. One, the way it comes to consensus and manages decentralization. I don't quite know what you mean, Alexander, but feel free to go again. And two, why is it saying I want to say two? No, come on. What are you doing? This is a disaster. Let's do two like that. And we'll change this to this. And two, how we physically physically relay real world data. I will come to chat in a moment. Relay real world data to smart contracts. So let's talk more about this. If I go, let's go down here. So let's say you have a smart contract. I've also misspelled decentralization, so we'll fix that. Let's say we have a smart contract. What you're going to do, we'll call this contract A. What you're going to do is, let's say contract A requires certain off-chain data. Let's say whether the sun rises tomorrow, whether the sun, well, let's just say what the temperature was at 12 p.m. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a request for this data. What this actually request is called in Chainlink is a service level agreement. Specifying, well, what do we need to specify? What do you think we need to specify? What do we need? What are we going to specify? Can I zoom in a little? Of course I can. What are we going to specify in the service level agreement? Anyone know? Yeah, so the type of data, very good. The source of the data, ideally, where it's coming from. And obviously, and any other details related to the data. Cool. So we're going to create this, we call it a service level agreement. And after this, and probably the uptime as well. After this, it's going to be broadcasted. We'll type this up a bit later to the Chainlink network as a request, like an API request. Okay, cool. Then nodes, this is the kind of innovative bit, we'll talk about this in a moment, nodes that are selected. So first of all, the node operators who meet the requirements are selected. We'll talk about the selection process because that's the whole innovation to provide the data. And they proceed to do so. Then what happens is this data is reported back to something called a Chainlink aggregation contract. What this contract does is it validates the data, discards outliers, and aggregates it into one answer. Price feeds are obviously very good for this. I can take all the different price feeds, I can aggregate them and come to one clear idea of what the kind of price is at a given moment. We then send this data back to contract A. I'm going to scroll up a bit so it's center of the screen. Back to contract A. So the smart contract can perform its function. Now, clearly the innovative bit here is the node operators who meet the requirements are selected to provide the data and will proceed to do so. So here is where the magic is. You can also just draw a little dot here. So we'll get rid of that one. We'll just do this one. No, I want to get rid of that. Okay, here's where the magic is. So let's talk about this a bit more. So we need some here is where we need some sense of reputation, consensus, means of selecting the node operators. So let's do a bit of a thought experiment. Let's say within this class, we had to select one person to give me the information of what the weather is in Barcelona right now. How would we do so? So you tell me, give me some things I would need to do. I want to work out in a reliable way with this whole group what the weather is in Barcelona right now. What sort of things should I consider? What sort of things, chat, should we do? Let chat answer. Current location of the node, very good. So maybe location of the node. Well, I want to do it properly. While chat is doing that, I'm going to do this. Location of the node. Verify someone that lives there. Elect someone to Google it. Find a trusted weather source. Their reputation. Get multiple people to do it and see what common answers come. Check people's track record, but we don't have track record here, so we're inventing it from nothing. A simple vote and have 51% agree. Yeah, we could start tracking, yeah. Anything else? Ask them a Spanish word. Cool. So lots of different things here. So we kind of do some of that when we do this. So first of all, we're going to ask everyone who wants to participate to put down a stake. Basically, skin in the game. If you remember Bitcoin, the way Bitcoin works with its consensus is we ask people to do work. So it's like saying this to everyone who wants to. So there's a reward, guys, and we're going to have 10 euros. Let's call it 1,000 euros for anyone that gives the right answer. From that 1,000 euros, if you'd like to take part, I'm going to need you to do one of two things. Either you're going to need to run a half marathon. And then if you run the half marathon, you will count that as your sort of stake to the game, or you're going to stake $10,000, 10,000 euros. Now, which you pick is up to you. I don't mind. What would chat pick out of interest? Would you rather run a half marathon or put down 10x the money to show you're interested? Interesting. Rather put down 10k? I think I'd rather run a half marathon. Okay, marathon. Well, you don't have health of you, very good. Yes. Do people out of interest prefer proof of work or proof of stake? We talked about it last time. And actually, I think I can do a poll in here as well. Let's see what people prefer. Go on, put your vote in. %, proof of stake, proof of work, proof of stake, proof of work, 31 votes, 32, proof of stake, proof of work. Oh my god, proof of stake's winning. 39, of course, let's see who's paying attention still. 40, proof of stake, proof of work, still 70-30. The other votes, 70-30. 48. Oh, still, it's really, it's like perfectly 70-30 even as time goes on. Interesting. Very nice. We might do a few more polls. They're quite fun. Okay, so probably people prefer to put money down, but they think proof of stake is better. But we could also just make people do work. That's the Bitcoin system. But in this case, if I don't mess up my thing, what we're going to say is we are going to ask people to put down a stake. So first of all, we're going to say to everyone, put down a large sum of money. And of these people, you can be validators. Okay. And okay, so we do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say this. We're going to have broadly 2 ways of checking you guys are honest. One, we're going to say, okay, we're going to kind of prove if you are being reliable. And we're going to kind of do this by kind of mathematically checking if you are kind of doing this data provision right. And the second is we're going to sort of check your answers by looking at other people's answers. On the assumption that this sort of, not 51%, but this sort of majority rule argument that it's not really in people's interests for Chainlink not to work. Because to participate in this system as a user or validator, I will need to own Link. So if I do something to make the system worse, I will devalue my Link, because Chainlink will be less popular. So the argument therefore goes, if I had enough power to mess with the answers and to make Chainlink give unreliable results, it probably isn't worth my while spending this this power on devaluing my own money, Link. I don't think his argument is perfect. Why is it not perfect? Why is this argument not perfect? Why is it not perfect? So mistakes can happen by accident, but again, we need to match the harm with the state money. Yeah. Which it kind of is, because like if I have enough power, I probably have a lot of Link, and therefore like my downside is higher than others. Banks may destroy. I'm not sure they'll do that. I think here's the big vulnerability. Perhaps the upside of making Link is higher than the downside of the drop in value of Link. Yeah, so exactly, Joe. For instance, if I could manipulate a Chainlink Oracle, I might be able to manipulate a DeFi protocol and therefore hack it. So the reason there, yeah, maybe, Joe. So the issue here is that, like, we probably, for instance, if I manipulated the price of USDC on Chainlink, I'm pretty sure I'd liquidate a lot of people, which like cause huge financial consequences. So like yeah, I might have risked a lot of Link, but like that can cause like a much more multiplied effect of damage. The other thing is this: there is not a tangible link between the workings of the protocol and the value of Link. Certainly, if Link earned now, it would probably take a while for the price to reflect this. Yeah, exactly, Mason. You could just do a future, a shorting. So like you could like mess up the system, take your Link out, sell it pretty fast. Of course, there are some things we could do. Anyway, this is this. So broadly, it's probably not in your interest to do so, and we're going to do a few things after this to sort of make it really not in your interest. So one, if we find out you are being malicious, you get punished. One, you don't get the rewards. Two, you might devalue. Oh, I can do the two thing again. Devalue the system and your Link stake. Three, we will slash, take money away from your stake. So like it's like negatively in your interest to do so. So this could be in the case, malicious could be in the case of sort of non-performance, or literally giving the wrong data. Then after that, it's a fairly mathematical process. As with most blockchains coming to the kind of consensus, we want to have some sense, some mathematical confidence, mathematical sense. I'll zoom in. Sense of confidence that for a given amount of let's change that, mathematical sense of confidence that the data is correct and being provided quickly through aggregating the through sorry, my brain's gone to mush for a second. Through aggregating all of the data feed / suggestions of validators involved, weighted by their stake, and then it gets Ron, it's an interesting point. We can talk about that. So we want to reach some mathematical sense of confidence, and a lot of this is also done through the aggregation contract. That kind of is also mathematically checking that things have worked well. So in general, a way to do this is, how do you check whether the data is not correct? Is it that? So we have no sense of objectivity. So we're doing it based on what the network itself thinks has happened. So again, the argument goes that if a certain number of people agree that this is good and right, we will say this data is good and right. So the assumption is therefore that it's not in the interest of anyone, because as soon as Chainlink starts reporting wrong data, people lose confidence in the system and wouldn't use it. That means the validators are suddenly doing something that's worthless. They might lose their stake and the profits. They might also get slashed. So we are kind of betting mathematically there is a point at which we are so confident that enough validators agree this data is right and have offered their own similar data that is correct, that we can conclude that the data is fine. Obviously, this is not the case of like you listen to the first person. It's probably listening to multiple validators at the same time who collectively have tons and tons of link, and that gives us confidence. I'm going to take a drink of water because my throat's drying up. A huge node operator probably could, but you're probably you need the sort of 20-30%. And let's look at the operators now. So let's look at, there's another concept called delegation. Does anyone know what delegating is? What is delegating? Why is this not loading? Here we go. I want the Chainlink validator. Give your state to validator. So why would we do this? I can't find what I was looking for. I wanted to find you guys the validator thing. I'll try and sign it in a moment. Yeah, so delegation is you means you give your stake to someone else, sharing the fees without any of the work. I still want to find the Chainlink node operators. Where is it gone? That's really annoying. If anyone has the link, help me out. Where has it gone? This is not what I wanted. Chainlink nodes. So if all the validators did, then yes, the data would be wrong. There's no sense of objectivity with the data, except the data is right if Moson's got it. Thank you. The data is right if the data, if everyone agrees the data is right. Share this tab. There we go. Very nice. So let's look. This is the perfect example to look at here. So we have all these nodes. We've got 0-1 node. We've got. I'll try and zoom in. Alpha chain. And look, they're all reporting Deutsche Telekom. They're all reporting different numbers, or mostly different. Figment in there. So we've got 31 different people that are all answering pretty much the same answer. We can see this on Etherscan. These are all the different nodes coming in, or all the different things. We've got 31 different oracles. So this is actually fairly centralized. There's only 31 different parties who are agreeing here. If one of them was out of line, either they're right and everyone's wrong, or they're wrong. So these nodes will probably then challenge that node and say, I think you're wrong. Why is your answer so different? And there then would be therefore then a period whereby that node gets a chance to sort of argue its case, if I was going to turn this into something not technical. And then we have some sort of reconciliation. And if it is the case that it seems like this one node was right or wrong, we will then redecide accordingly. It might go to we re-ask for the data, we re-ask for the data, we then might check the data back retrospectively and see who was right. So it's all about a period of sort of challenging each other and aggregating. But if 31 out of 31 say it's this price, that is the price that gets quoted. There's no, and therefore the system would react by saying, no, this was wrong, I'm not using Chainlink anymore. So probably here, to change the price of ETHUSD on Chainlink, what you're going to have to do is convince most of these nodes to say a different number, either because you've changed their source or because you've got to them and you're being malicious. But if it were to be wrong continuously, people would stop using Chainlink and all these people would get devalued. So there's a real big incentive. But this 31 number is like not big. It's not one that is huge, and the amount of linking there is 22 million links. So 22 million link. Let's have a look how much that is worth. $6. So that's like 100 million. So 100 million. What if the price only dropped by $200? But as there is time limit after which the price update then would lead to that could 100% happen. But this will be updated a little bit more often than this. Cool. Let's actually have a look at some of the Chainlink feeds in more depth. Cool. So we can look at the BTC USD feed. So we've got trigger parameters. A new answer is written when the off-chain data moves more than the deviation threshold or about whatever that is. An hour has passed since the last answer. Here's everyone reporting what the data was. I want to find someone where they're not answered yet. So if they weren't to answer, they're also going to get slashed. Here, look, we've got the prices every hour. So we can see everyone answering as well. Fascinating, really. Should we try and find one where someone hasn't answered yet? Here, look, this has fewer node operators. Look, this only has 14, 16 people. Like, if you were to get to 8 of these, you could change this price quite easily. You can see this transaction. Oh, shit. You can't see my screen. Ha! You can't see my right screen. Sorry, guys. There you go. Let's look at this. Let's see when this one. No, I want to find one where people haven't. Oh, I thought we had yellow for a minute there. Let's go in GRT. No, they're all green. You see different oracles here. Has to be a minimum of 13. Again, that's fairly centralized. Like, that's not that many people in the grand scheme of things. Let's go further. Anyone got any feeds they specifically like to look at? Dramatic one. No, but this is even fewer. 10, minimum of 7. Really like one that wasn't yellow yet. No. Looks like everything will be updated. But anyway, we can see the different number of oracles. We can see the regularity of price. If one of these were to not to have responded massively different. Also, what you can do here is, we talked about the aggregation contract. That is going to take, like, we're reporting a number. So, like, that's going to also trying to figure out from these 16 numbers that I've been given, what is the right number? Okay, well, they've got clearly some outliers on both sides, but like the majority is saying this price. I guess it's this price, right? And if that aggregator thinks, okay, this is way too much like deviation, it's outside of this deviation threshold, we're going to have to do a revote. And you keep doing this. And the ones that were doing this badly would get punished, and or continue to be the outliers. And the ones that are doing it right would get the rewards. So extremely interesting. I'll just put this into chat so you can play around. They get, so how much do they make? Yeah, let's look at the staking stuff. So they're making what, about 5%, 4%. So that's pretty good, and that's paid in sort of people using Link, or incentives paid to. We've got Deutsche Telekom on that. Look at or incentives paid to them by Chainlink directly. The minimum depends different on different. We saw this a second ago. It depends on different feeds. Let's try and find one which is really low. I'm going to go right to the end. See if we can have a look. So this is 7. I think 7's the minimum. 16 out of a minimum of 11. Why is there a difference? Well, you tell me. The price is moving all the time. Of course there'll be a difference. Like this is just like they're all pretty much the same. Not enough that it would cause people to get liquidated, but certainly enough. Yeah, they're all sort of within one standard deviation of each other, really. Price data, can it differ on different networks? Yeah, it probably could, but within one standard, probably within a standard deviation of each other. Secondly, can you convert the price from USD to USD using Chainlink? Yeah, because if you've got 2 feeds, you could figure it out from there. But you've got most feeds here anyway that you could do it direct. Well, it really wants to find this one, it's a longer deviation. Should we try and find one that's really close to its heartbeat? So Ethereum, this is actually really close. Oh, but the last update was 2 minutes ago. Oh, that's a shame. 600 seconds. That's not 58 minutes. That's 57 seconds. This might update in a second. Let's wait for it. Because the last one was, 2 minutes ago. And the one before that. I want to see everything come in. Let's see. Heartbeat's going down. Oh, this was 57 minutes. I'll take questions while we're doing that. How do you determine the size of punishments? Good question. We'll come on to that maybe a bit later. Yeah, let's see. We can have a look at that in a second. See if I can get a nice chart up. This is quite nice if you want to go into all the details. Mitchell, that could 100% happen. And so certain DeFi protocols have provisions to stop the markets if something like that were to happen. Again, a Chainlink hack or Chainlink issue would be the biggest one. But you just get these happening more often if the price is moving much more volatilely. Maybe we just missed the update by a little while. Yeah, looks like we just missed it. So here looks like it was a big drop, so it changed quite quickly. Otherwise, these were just hourly. But yes, look, 356, 40 minutes later, prices drop. So there has been a deviation. So we have changed it. So someone is reporting that it's deviating, and we should do another vote very quickly, basically. This one's got 23 minutes. This is quite close. Because this deviation is tiny. We could get one any second. Questions? Yes, if they're unresponsive, they're going to get slashed. It's kind of a vote. It's just asking everyone, and everyone has to respond. And if you don't respond, you're going to get slashed. And if you do respond, but you're an outlier, and you're consistently an outlier, like, you're going to get slashed. It's this. So if you look, a new answer is written when the off-chain data moves by the deviation but it moves more than the deviation threshold. So it moves by this small amount, 0.15%, or it's been 864 seconds have passed. So one of the two. Whatever happens first. And you might be saying, so how do you work out deviation? Someone would report and say, I think it's a deviation and move. So it just means that the price is volatile. So people are now saying we've got to do another vote here. What else? Yeah, you can decide what you want to be, because obviously different ones will have different fees. The more often it's being reported and the bigger the market, the better fees you're going to get. Tokenomics, not specifically, but if you have looked back on YouTube, we have lots of different videos of this sort of thing. Okay, anyway, we'll stop staring at that. Let's go back to the board. Cool. So basically, the way we're going to do consensus, the way we're going to do this is by having people stake. We're going to punish people who are bad actors or consistently outliers. We're going to reward people that are good. That means both being responsive and giving the right answer, or at least giving sort of an answer that is within sort of, if you think of it like a standard deviation graph, within the kind of main bulk of the standard deviation, with various different ways of it. We think it's going wrong. We need to redo votes, and if things were particularly volatile, then things get very messy very quickly. The fact that Chainlink oracles work well is a good thing. Now, we saw that there's sort of most 31 validators. Do we think this is a good amount for decentralization? What do people think? Is 31 a good amount? Why more? Why less? Not really. I want to see arguments for good and bad. PNN. Okay, so that's a lot of power over a small amount of people. What if I said that they've been mostly reliable? Does that not tell us something? Like, it has more than one person involved. P is divided by 31 different parties, but like, yeah, but like, and it works. Is this good? Should we define decentralization not by P over N, but by how much the system, the system works the way we as the individual user would want it to? It's really interesting. People, you think quite strongly that's good, James. 30 meets the statistical. Yes, good. Yeah, 30 is a big enough sample size. And what about when it's 7? Think 7's enough? What we can also do as well, which I didn't talk about, is the aggregation contract. What it's going to check is not only whether we report the data, but also whether it's coming from the source we said it did. Each validator will have to name its source. So maybe it's like, I'm quoting Binance. And we're going to try and as much as possible mathematically or cryptographically prove that it's actually coming from that source. So it isn't just like I said, someone from that company writes down the answer. It's done. It has to be submitted in a way that it could be mathematically challenged. They could also be the same person. Yeah, and I think that what this all comes down to is decentralization about there's this concept in democracy of game theoretical understandings of democracy, that there's sort of the average policy position, which is like in the middle, which is the policy position that suits the most amount of people. And if you just have one party, that party could be anywhere on the spectrum. It could be here, it could be there, it could be there. If you have two parties, maybe one of each side of the political spectrum, maybe the average of them will push things to there. But if one party wins power and the other one doesn't, like, that party gets to put the policy where it wants it to be. But if you have lots of different parties competing, and let's say there's lots of different times they can compete, it's likely that very quickly the average policy position is going to move into the middle. This is typically happens with governments that are kind of power sharing, or even minority governments. So you have a lot of votes and you you have a lot of people participating, you can kind of move the policy position to the point at which it benefits the most number of people. So perhaps of quality of a decentralized system is not the fact of how you get there, but how often we are at that average point where the output the system produces is what we would want as the majority, or suits the most amount of people. So we can judge decentralization not by the inputs or how the system works, but on its outputs. And therefore, you could have a very centralized, traditionally, system that is still decentralized, or in the sense of democracy, in the sense of output. Because what I'm seeing from Chainlink is like it's giving good answers, it's giving right answers, and the system does work. But it's also the point that we care more about the process, because the process helps us avoid problems in the future than we do about the outputs. I don't know. I leave that up to you. It feels intuitively low, but like it's statistically significant enough to achieve both reliable answers and, in the case of subjective answers, though we don't ever challenge it to give them notes. The reason it's just price feeds is price feeds are fairly easy to be consistent about, and for one to be able to cryptographically prove it's the right answer. But perhaps there could eventually be one huge hack that causes huge issues, because it would take down the whole of DeFi. So guys, another fairly theoretical one on this course, on this topic. We again exploring what it means for something to be decentralized, but also looking at specific mechanisms of how price fees work, and how staking and consensus works in Chainlink. We typically have about 30 validators, sometimes more, but rarely, sometimes less, rarely more. Each are going to offer their answer. If they are not responsive, they're going to get slashed, and if they are consistently an outlier, they're going to get slashed, and if they are seen to be giving the wrong answer cryptographically, so it's not from the source they said it was, usually because of error, not by kind of malice, they're also going to get slashed. You're going to get a bigger share of the rewards depending on how big you are and how many votes you participate in, and you can also trigger a vote yourself if you think the price has moved away from a deviation. So guys, that's kind of the more, again, nitty-gritty of Chainlink and consensus. I will take some questions now, and then tomorrow we have a course with Matthias, one of our bootcamp teachers, who's going to go into the coding side and get you start implementing a Chainlink in your smart contracts. Any questions, guys? If data was provided manipulated by all the nodes, you'd know it, because DeFi would stop working. Yeah. And by the way, ZK proofs also talk about this idea of cryptographically known answers. We will start moving on to actual integrations and start playing around with kind of integrating into your smart contracts directly. Yeah, denial of service attacks could definitely happen, 100%. That's typically a problem with staking if the service itself is too computationally difficult. For instance, if, I don't know, all the exchanges went down, it'd be very hard to get price feeds. It's unlike, usually you have some limitations on how big you can be with staking, both limitations and maximums. Also, it's just financially really difficult sometimes and rarely in people's interests. You absolutely could do that, but then you probably devalue all the link tokens. So this is like why it's stupid to do a 51% attack. If you had enough power to control the network, there's many more profitable things you could do than manipulate the network and therefore devaluing that currency, because the value of this system is that it's resilient and that it's decentralized. Otherwise, you've just created your own centralized thing that you are in charge of and can create the rules of. That's suddenly less valuable. So yeah. Feel free to DM us, but that's one for Matthias in the more bootcampy stuff. All right, guys, I think we'll call it a day there. We'll put this on YouTube tomorrow morning and also send the slides around from tomorrow, we go into a bit more technical stuff. I've been covering the more theoretical stuff. Really, this talk should be these 2 talks should be what it means for something to be decentralized, but through the lens of Chainlink. Please find me top of the Discord if you have any questions. Otherwise, guys, please take part in the hackathons, particularly Open Data Hack with Chainlink. Please do sign up. It's not too late, but it is the start of the hackathon. Go and win some prizes. Otherwise, I've been Anthony. Lovely to see you all, and see you at the workshop tomorrow.